Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Hopefully you've all had a wonderful Wednesday. Today we're going to be diving into none other than Cardano. Now, the last update that we gave, we were essentially talking about where we were looking to start aggressively accumulating Cardano. And we're going to be reiterating that in this video. I had quite a few comments on that video saying that they couldn't see the levels because they were watching it on their phone. So I'm going to be verbally giving them, as well as, of course, showing them on the screen. So we're going to get into it. There's quite a lot to cover. Cardano had quite a good last couple of days. And if you look at coin market cap, you know, it's gaining some significant ground. And I always get people saying, you know, Cardano isn't here to stay. It's going to fade, all this sort of stuff. That is completely non-evidence based. Cardano is here to stay, ladies and gentlemen, and is going to be a top-performing Layer 1 protocol. It hasn't even really started that journey and gained traction within the smart contract space, as it has been a methodically thought-out blockchain that hasn't rushed to market, which we've seen huge problems with as a result of. It's peer-reviewed everything and done things in the right way. It's why I'm such a big fan of Cardano, because of how they do things. They don't... You know, it's not all about fundamentals and marketing and all this stuff. It's more about building a sustainable, usable blockchain that is going to be here into the future and is actually going to be a blockchain that people build upon with confidence. And it's doing that, guys. So we're going to be looking at the monthly. And we're going to be dropping right down the time frames. We left our draw on from last time of where we're actually looking to accumulate. I'll just get rid of some of these squiggles. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on. Now, we've got the Vasil hard fork coming up. We have previously seen, and we will drop down to the weekly to illustrate this. We'll also take it off of log, or put it onto log, sorry. We have seen prior hard forks actually see significant moves to the upside on the run up to them. This one, potentially, I'm not saying that we're not going to see a run up, and we have been talking about the relief rally for the entire cryptocurrency market that we seem to have had over the past couple of days for a while now on our daily market updates. So we do typically see a run up to the hard fork. However, what you've got to remember with prior run ups to hard forks is they were in raging bull markets. You know, Cardano has done exceptionally well since it was sort of 2 cents. You know, it's gone up, I think, 16,000% or so, 17,000%. And that's very impressive and not sustainable movement for anything, guys. You're always going to have a drawdown from a move like that. And that's what we're currently going through. Does that mean Cardano is dead or there's nothing going on the blockchain? Absolutely not. And in actual fact, the opposite is true. There is so much going on. It's at a very infantile and early stage in its development. We're seeing a bit of a pullback today, of course, natural given the sort of moves that we've seen. For somebody that trades these markets, Cardano can be quite illiquid, which means the liquidity isn't there to absorb buy and sell pressure, which is why you get these really volatile moves to the up and the downside like we've seen over the past couple of days. And of course, given the move that it has done, it's likely that you're going to see more of an exaggerated drawdown from that, certainly as the overall market is selling off. And you guys know that we think the overall market still has more downside to go. Very quickly switching to Bitcoin. We're not going to get too much into it, but this is essentially where we think you're going. Down to your 200 weekly average. You've also got your long-term regression bands that we talk about a lot on this channel. And I think Bitcoin is likely heading towards your lower 20K zone. So 22, 23, 24K. We'll assess the situation at that point, and then we will see where altcoins are at and whether we want to start accumulating at that range. And that's going to have a lot to do with the macro backdrop, which is really driving this market. But back to Cardano, we've got the Vasil hard fork coming up. Prior hard forks have been in raging bull markets. This is a very different environment. So not to say that we don't see relief, but ultimately, if we think the overall market is going to continue going down, Cardano is really swept up in that tide. It's not moving off of its own fundamentals. It's a very strong and competing blockchain. You know, it's a competitor in the blockchain space and has actually done very well and consistently done that. If you go and look at the TradingView historical Snapchats, it was here in 2017. It's here in this bull market, and it's going to be here into the next, and actually do very well as a result of that. And this Vasil hard fork is very crucial for people building on top of Cardano, and we're not really going to see the fruits of that labor until later on down the line. And we have seen, like I say, a significant move up, so it's kind of telling the move that we're doing. Now, talking about accumulating Cardano, Bearing in mind, you guys know we still own a stake pool. We still hold ADA. It's there for the long term. You know, this is a project that I'm going to stick with indefinitely, really. You know, if blockchain is really on the journey that I think it is on, and blockchain is a technological revolution that plays a role in all of our lives moving forwards, just like the PC revolution, just like the internet, just like the motoring revolution, you know, blockchain is very similar. You know, the reason that we stick with ADA and we continue to do it, despite all the FUD, which 9 times out of 10 isn't factually based, is because we see it having a long, bright future in the same way of Amazon and other things like that, which we've spoken about in great detail on this channel. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at this, and I want to split my screen, and I want to pull up over here Ethereum, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to go back to 2017 and really just put these side by side to show you just how comparable they are in terms of structure. You know, we've spoken about the Wall Street cheat sheet and a number of other things. For those of you that don't know about the Wall Street cheat sheet, get yourself familiar with it, guys. It essentially assesses market psychology. Markets are driven by human beings. Human beings are emotional, and there's psychology to markets. It's not hearsay. It's an actual thing that does take place. Where Cardano is currently, to me, looks like what's happened or what Ethereum went through in 2017 into 2018. Now, you guys know that I have a different theory. Many people calling for a 2-year prolonged bear market. I think that this market recovers a lot sooner, and I think it has a lot to do with what the Fed are going to do or not do, and when they actually pivot on their stance, which is not accommodating in the slightest to markets. Remember, guys, markets saw huge appreciation from March 2020 up until sort of the highs of October. And then the Fed changed their tune and went, right, we need to tackle inflation. And the way that we do that is by upping interest rates and really restricting and being very regressive to markets in terms of liquidity. So in a different environment to the environment that's seen substantial moves for prior hard forks. So you guys can, and leave me a comment, you can very clearly see the similarity between Cardano and what it's currently going through and what Ethereum went through in 2017, 2018. This factors into our accumulation strategy. We still think the markets are going lower. Cardano is swept up in that. And ultimately, on the prior video, we had actually drawn this for you. Now, the accumulation zone that we were talking about was from around about 30 cents to 22 cents. And we're not going to know that that is the bottom until we see some kind of a bottoming structure. So we see a reduction in volatility, and we see a nice floor being built that we can essentially build price movement and momentum upon. We're not there yet, guys. You're catching a falling knife, calling this a bottom. It's something that we've previously tried to do in bull markets. And the real difference between a bull market and a bear market is the trend. The trend in this kind of an environment is down. You don't want to bet against that. Just like in a bull market, you don't want to short the market. So we'll take it back to the one screen, having made this point. And it's not just Cardano that looks like Ethereum. I mean, we can look at many, many altcoins out there. We'll use AVAX as an example. Can you see this? They came up very fast. And now, of course, they're coming down pretty hard. You know, there's that saying out there that bulls go up the stairs and bears go out the window. So what we'll do is we'll flip back to ADA. We'll put it to a single chart. And we're going to put on our draw here for what we think is essentially going to take place. So I think, and we drew this before we had even had that relief rally, you know, you bounced sort of somewhat or deviated, you could say, off your 200 weekly moving average. We've got that bounce, and you can see this was just a squiggly draw, but it's very much followed it to a T. And we think you are going to eventually, doesn't mean that this market can't continue to run a little bit. That right now doesn't seem the case. We spoke about it in an earlier video where we looked at the stock market is down, the dollar is up, not very accommodating for the cryptocurrency space. But this is what we're looking at. Where we currently are today, and we'll put it on log to make it a little bit more simple, is around about 57 cents, 58 cents. For me, this is the accumulation zone that we're potentially looking at. You know, we're looking at these kind of levels here between 30 cents and 22 cents. And we did actually say that there was the scope. When we're looking for accumulation zones, we're looking for prior areas of liquidity. There is definitely the scope for Cardano to come lower. It's really very dependent on the macro. Again, ADA is not moving off of its own fundamentals because they are exceptionally strong. As far as blockchains go, this is a blockchain that continues to grow in terms of user adoption, in terms of people building on top of it, in terms of developers. Does very well on the GitHub commits. You know, it's a very strong blockchain that just does not simply correlate. That doesn't correlate through to price. What correlates through to price is market and market conditioning, and what kind of conditions we're currently going through. It's why Cardano is pulling back in the manner that it is. Like I say, we saw a significant spike for ADA, but this is relief that we were kind of looking for. And the reason Cardano spiked significantly more than other altcoins is because of the liquidity. When you look on exchanges, you look at the kind of depth of volume, it lacks it in certain areas, which allows for, if you have low liquidity, the market can be moved far more easy to either the up or the downside. Hodlers don't really affect the price. They would have once upon a time, in the sense that when they bought, price is determined at the margin, which means it basically, price is determined on new money coming in and old money going out. And, you know, the hodling aspect really affects liquidity. So the more people that hodl it, the less liquid it is, the kind of higher the price can go to the upside, but it also has an adversary effect in regards to the downside. So this is still the play that we are looking to take advantage of, bringing Ethereum back up. And this is the kind of good news, I guess, in what I'm saying, because nobody wants to hear that their investment is potentially going to see more downside, including myself. But with that downside, I think that brings upside. I think when these prices get a lot more attractive, people will be you know, a lot more willing to put money into markets. And of course, if monetary policy dictates that, you know, that's essentially what we're looking at. And this is, we'll get rid of this now. We think this essentially is the play. Now, we are starting up a Patreon group. We're going to limit the amount of people that can join because I want it to be quite a personal thing where we're not just looking at ADA, we're looking at other altcoins, where we are in the cycle and where we're looking to accumulate. But this is essentially what I'm envisioning. You know, we do something like this, we come down, we find that bottom before things rinse and repeat. And if we look at the story with Ethereum, went through a very similar structure, we came down, and then we all know how the future panned out. And I think that's going to be very applicable to Cardano, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very, you got to remember, it was only actually launched in 2017. And is still exceptionally early on the journey that it's on. So this is what we're looking at. This is my strategy for ADA. We still hold ADA. We still run a stake pool. But in terms of accumulating, and we've been saying this for a while now, we're holding off until we can see what we may deem bottoming structure. You're not there yet, guys. Something we've reiterated, that draw that we showed you right at the start really highlighted we got the relief we're looking for, and I think ultimately markets continue to the downside, and I think the macro really does support and highlight that. We are going to be releasing videos. One of my main objectives moving forwards is to educate people on valuable projects to look to accumulate during this downtrend, because crypto isn't dead, guys. Always get the same actors. You know, certain altcoins will die off. Cardano isn't one of them. Saw a tweet yesterday talking about how Cardano won't survive this cycle. No factual evidence for that whatsoever. And in fact, all the evidence suggests completely otherwise. It's got a strong, passionate community that isn't going anywhere. And I'm a part of that. And I'm going to be here for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years talking about ADA. So that's really the bulk of what I've got for you. Again, we're going to be releasing lots of videos talking about various altcoins being built, various dApps being built on top of Cardano, things like Liquid Labs, things like JED, which is the stablecoin. We need to clearly illustrate the differences between DJED and the likes of UST, because UST has basically given all algorithmic backed stablecoins a really bad name. But DJED, for example, I think is 400% collateralized. So it kind of mitigates that downside risk, in my opinion. So that's largely what we've got for you in this video, guys. Keep your heads up out there. There's huge opportunities on the table. You know, if I'm looking to accumulate Cardano at these kind of prices, you know, you've got smaller altcoins that I think are going to come significantly lower and going to present massive opportunities moving forwards. And it's what we're going to be including in our Patreon. That is all I've got for you in this video, guys. If you've enjoyed the content, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.